This is GNN, the Guilfordian News Network.
Hello Guilford, my name is Ashley Lynch.
And I'm Millie Carter.
And this was your week. Many students were happy last weekend for a chance to burst the Guilford bubble. Last weekend was the annual Greensboro Fest, a 4-day entirely free music festival with over 30 bands, DJs, and artists playing at different venues across the city. Caravans of Guilford students arrived at Linden Street Artworks on Friday to see former Serendipity performers Holy Ghost 10 Revival play their self-described mix of swing, thrash, and roots music. Holy Ghost was followed by DJ Tim Trouble, another frequent performer here at Guilford College.
Also this weekend, the men's soccer team faced off against Randolph College and Ferrum College in a Virginia double matchup with mixed results. In a 3-1 loss against Randolph on Friday, the Quakers did show signs of fight when Freddie Gomez scored a second-half goal with the assist from Drew Gunter. Also, it was a great performance from goalie Marco Mandolinic with 3 saves, keeping Randolph scoreless in the second half. Then, Sunday, the Quakers traveled to Ferrum College for a double overtime tie with 0-0 as the end result. The Quakers again showed fight with a total of 9 shots on goal compared to Ferrum's 4, with goalie Michael McVeigh racking up all 4 saves in the match.
The women's soccer team was also in Virginia this weekend when they defeated ODOT competitor Sweetbriar College in a 1-0 victory. Forward Emma Blaylock scored the game-clinching goal in the second period after a corner kick assist by Bree Ellman.
In national news, Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Schaefer's book, Operation Dark Heart, Spycraft, and Special Ops on the Front Lines of Afghanistan, was released last week with an unusual reception. It was purchased by the Pentagon, some 9,500 copies of the initial printing. This comes after criticism that the author, a former Army Defense Intelligence agent, did not allow the book to go through the proper vetting process needed before publishing. The Department of Defense stated that they were not properly consulted prior to the release of the book, which they say contains the names of U.S. intelligence officers and details of the National Security Administration's eavesdropping activities. The publisher, Macmillan, is seemingly cooperating with the DoD, who has destroyed most of the copies.
In an attempt to keep up with technology, Washington announced legislation to be introduced next year that would make it easier for law enforcement agencies and national security organizations to eavesdrop on Internet communications, including email, Facebook, Skype, and BlackBerry Messenger. Privacy groups and Internet security analysts are already attacking the proposed bill, saying not only that it will have large consumer privacy implications, but also that it will be potentially exploited by Internet hackers. FBI lawyers said that the law wouldn't expand government authority, but use lawfully authorized intercepts to protect national security. The bill, they argue, is necessary as criminals are increasingly using the Internet in place of telephones. We'll have more on this as details emerge.
On September 23rd, a number of provisions of the controversial Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act went into effect. The provisions that went into effect marked the 6 months since the bill passed on March 23rd of this year. The provisions included protection against discrimination based on pre-existing conditions for policyholders under 19, extension of parental policies until the age of 26, and required implementation of an appeals process for anyone declined insurance. The provisions will come into effect until January 1st, 2018.
Tuesday, a man opened fire at the University of Texas at Austin's Perry-Casadena Library. It has been confirmed that nobody was injured or killed, except for the shooter who police say turned the gun on himself after the ordeal. A professor who was driving by the library at the time told CNN that the shooter was apparently shooting at the ground, not necessarily at people. Though authorities are on the lookout for a second suspect and canceled classes for the day, telling students to stay inside. The motive for the attack is still unclear.
Turning to the war in Afghanistan, 5 U.S. soldiers have been charged with premeditated murder and conspiracy to commit the premeditated murder of Afghan civilians. Specialist Jeremy Morlock has been singled out in the case for court-martial and a possible death sentence after he and 4 other men in his unit murdered 3 Afghani civilians. Morlock's commander, Staff Sergeant Calvin Gibbs, in one instance, told Morlock and Private First Class Adam Winfield to open fire on a civilian who Morlock later said posed no threat to the unit. While no forensic evidence was taken due to safety concerns for investigators, photographic evidence surfaced of Morlock posing with the body of a dead civilian. Defense attorneys involved with the case issued a statement that Morlock should have never been allowed to continue with the unit, given the medication he was using for a possible brain injury he suffered during deployment. Reports state that drug use within the unit was rampant and 7 others were accused of lesser crimes, including hashish possession.
Last week, we reported that North Korea was holding a special summit that many speculated to be the de facto choosing of leader Kim Jong-il's successor. KCNA, North Korea's official state media, reported that Kim Jong-il's youngest son, Kim Jong-un, was promoted to the military rank of the general, a symbolic gesture that many take to be the first official step in the transfer of the power from father to son.
And that's all for this week's news.
And be sure to stay tuned for next week's broadcast.